All eyes in MLB are on the north side of Chicago, but for now, we are BBTN live from lovely Studio E in Bristol, Connecticut. We are Phil Murphy and, of course, Joon Lee. Joon, how are you doing on this fine baseball Sunday?
I am fine, a little tired. Dog days of the summer, but we're going to get through this.
Some fan bases probably feel the same way. Hey, we're joined by Xavier Scruggs. He's the host of the Bigs podcast. X, thanks for being on the show, man. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me, guys. And June, you ain't lying. We're in the dog days of summer. It's getting hot out here where I'm at, Tampa, Florida. It's getting a little too muggy.
I'm also a sweater, too, so I'm just like, I constantly feel sticky right now.
Yeah, they come in before and they ask both of us, is it cool enough in the studio? We are high maintenance. But it has been a minute since we have joined you on the interwebs, and a lot has changed in Major League Baseball now on the other side of the trade deadline. And look no further if you want to see those changes than one of the teams featured tonight on ABC, the Chicago Cubs.
A moment that many thought might never happen has happened here in Cleveland. Go Cubs, go! Go Cubs, go! Hey Chicago, what do you say? The Cubs are gonna win today. Go Cubs, go! Go Cubs, go! Hey Chicago, what do you say?
5 years and a lifetime ago, the Cubs win the World Series, and then it's a lot of good but not great since. This team, this club, alone atop the NL Central as late as June 18th. They were tied atop the division as late as June 24th, then lost 11 straight and had a fire sale. Chicago laying to rest the core of that championship team. Xavier, I want to start with you. What are your thoughts on the Cubs' sudden teardown?
I think it's completely necessary. I think it's time. It's time to break up the band, and you have to go back and bolster up the foundation of your organization, and that comes back in prospects. You had to go get the value back in the prospects, and I think that's how you get it going again. And all Cubs fans know, and fans of this great team that's been pretty good for the past couple of years, is it's going to be patience. They're going to have patience as they bring back a lot of young players, and they're going to have to rebuild it all over again. But to answer your question, it was time. They have to get this organization back to what they can be from the foundation, and that comes in prospects.
Yeah, I mean, the Cubs kind of had two options here, right? They're either going to overpay for a bunch of guys and go into moving forward here with a bunch of players who are probably past their prime and probably would be overpaid if we were going to re-sign both Javy Baez and Chris Bryant and Anthony Rizzo and bring the entire band back together because of the nostalgia of that 2016 team. But the Cubs are in a position where they kind of are similar to before that World Series victory, where they need to be patient and rebuild up that foundation of that organization. And the best way to do that right now is by trading the guys that got you that World Series title. It is almost unfair to a little bit of a degree that the Cubs were a quote-unquote disappointment because they didn't win another World Series after that. But I think that was just kind of the byproduct of the fact that the Cubs rebuild was so hyped with Theo Epstein coming in and guys like Chris Bryant being one of the top prospects in baseball. But at this point, like as Xavier said, it is a completely necessary thing for this team to do.
June, quick follow-up there. Overall, how will you remember this dynasty?
As probably unfair to them falling a little bit short because you expected them to at least make it to another World Series. And it's one of those things where you look at these headlines. This is a story from ESPN.com after that World Series title. The Cubs will probably be a dynasty. And maybe that's part of the fault on the media, right? Setting these expectations incredibly high because you look at the foundation of that roster. You had so many guys in their early 20s who were, these really highly heralded prospects coming up and putting it together so quickly early on in 2016. You just expected more of that to be there, and obviously it didn't happen, which I think just goes to show the parity that happens in baseball, how quickly the leaf turns in baseball and teams turning over and improving, trying to catch up. And you see what happens when, some players, over the course of some time, Chris Bryant has had a couple good seasons, has also kind of fallen short at times of his expectations as one of the best third basemen in baseball. So overall, a little bit of a disappointment just given, everything that everyone expected. And I think people on that team, as much as they probably loved being on that World Series contender, they probably themselves expected more out of this group of a core as well.
Yeah, and again, I mean, how many organizations would take that resume over the last 5 years in an absolute heartbeat? This is a team that was built on bright young stars. June, you mentioned it. It's why the expectations were so high. And of these 10 players, this core in 2016, for a variety of reasons, only 3 remain. And those guys, 2 of them are 2 of the older guys on the list, Jake Arrieta and Kyle Hendricks. I want both of your opinions on these. X, we'll start with you. What do you see when you see the names on this list?
Yeah, I think of a dynamic opportunity. You talk about those expectations. This is a team that was filled with so many guys with so many different tools, and power was one big one. I mean, you think about all those guys in the lineup had power, but then power arms as well. When you think of a Jake Arrieta, and we see Kyle Schwarber here, who's now gone. You think of the power arm of Chapman. Those guys were built for the strong, long run. And realistically, the expectations just weren't met. When you have that many dynamic players on one team, you have to do more and get yourself to more playoff opportunities. You have to be able to get yourself to at least a couple of titles. And now we see what happens when that does not happen. The team gets broken up.
Yeah, the Cubs were almost kind of this prototype for the quote-unquote process, as you saw in the NBA with the Sixers in baseball. I think it was the Cubs and the Astros kind of setting that foundation for really tearing things down, tanking, building back up that farm system with a bunch of high-round draft picks. Chris Bryant was one of those guys, obviously. Kyle Schwarber was a guy that was selected really high in that draft. Addison Russell was a guy who, they were able to get from the Oakland Athletics, who was one of the top-ranked prospects in baseball at the time that they had acquired him. This was a team based off of not only just young potential, but a lot of these high round picks that I think have kind of set the foundation for a lot of teams in how they approach their rebuild. And as a result, because the Cubs weren't able to adapt over the course of the last 5 years or so, other teams caught up in terms of how they were rebuilding their teams. And at one point, a team that looked like a dynasty kind of became average for kind of the average mean of how you go about tearing things down and building things back up again.
And for sake of a more accurate snapshot of all that they were to accomplish, you could even go back a year prior to that. Remember, they went to the NLCS and got swept by the Mets, but still made it there in 2015 before winning the World Series in 2016. We are all here. You are watching BBTN Live. Jose Abreu, Eloy Jimenez warming up for the White Sox. And coming up at the top of the hour, White Sox Cubs on ABC and also on the ESPN app. One tap, one app. Al Michaels set to join the Sunday Night Baseball crew during the telecast. That is must-see TV for any fan of Major League Baseball. Let's move to the Southsiders. The Chicago White Sox added Craig Kimbrell from across town, bolstering that bullpen. Joon, the White Sox looked like they're going to cruise to the AL Central. How seriously should we consider this team a threat to reach or potentially win the World Series?
I think they're as good as threat, if not one of the foremost threats in the American League. To do that, they have one of the most talented rosters between Tim Anderson. They acquired Lance Lynn. Obviously, Craig Kimbrell is someone who's going to really, really bolster that bullpen. And then you add in already the fact that you have Liam Hendricks. Andrew Vaughn has been one of the team's best hitters this year. And they're going to be getting Luis Robert back in short due time. I mean, Robert has been out for most of this season and is now coming back. And that is a dynamic, not only offensive, but defensive player to add to that White Sox lineup. This is one of the most talented teams in baseball. This has been one of those teams that we've looked at for the last couple of seasons and have been talking about as a future perennial contender. And we're at a place now where I think the White Sox are kind of having the opportunity to meet that moment. And of course, a lot of that's going to depend on the health of this team moving forward and the state of that rotation.
A young, promising core in Chicago. X, it feels like it's a story we've heard before, maybe talked about 5 minutes ago. Do you think this is the year this could potentially come to fruition on the south side of Chicago?
I really do. This is the team that I predict to come out on top in the AL, and mainly because of what you guys mentioned is how dynamic this team is and how young they are, how athletic they are. And then the rotation, that's the biggest thing. You talk about guys like a Lance Lynn, like a Lucas Giolito, a Rodon, all these guys, a Dylan Cease, all these guys in this rotation are just absolutely filthy. And that's what's going to get you to the long haul, to the end of this thing. And you talk about playoffs and you talk about who are going to be those top 3 guys going. This team has those guys without question. So any team that matches up with the Chicago White Sox in the playoffs, good luck. Because those are some solid arms coming at you. And then you talked about the back end of that bullpen. You close up a 7, 8, 9 inning, it's done. This team is the best team in the AL to me.
And I think one of the potential X factors for this team moving forward is whether or not is going to be Lucas Giolito, who has been one of the better pitchers in baseball over the course of this year. A little bit down this year as an ERA tick below 4, but if he's able to, over the course of the next couple months, kind of step up his game, that rotation is really dangerous between Lance Lynn, Carlos Rodon, who's had a career year this year after almost throwing a perfect game at the beginning of the season. This is a really, really dynamic team, and don't forget about Michael Kopech as well, a guy who throws absolute heat and gas out of that bullpen, or in that just the pitching staff in general, and has both started and come out of the bullpen so far this year.
And again, Luis Robert flying to Minnesota Monday to rejoin that team. Again, news in recent hours there. But we have a quick drip moment that I want both of your opinions on, but we'll start with my buddy in the off-white ones to my left. White Sox and Yankees are flying to Iowa for the Field of Dreams game. That game will be Thursday night. I'm flying to Iowa as well. I will be doing some expense report gymnastics to get one of these jerseys in my possession. Joon, what are your thoughts on this setting and for the sake of the conversation, these jerseys and hats?
So I personally believe that Field of Dreams is one of the more overrated, if not the most overrated baseball movies. That being said, the concept for this entire game and the uniforms is so spot on awesome. Like, I love the old-time look of both of these teams' uniforms. The fact that they are playing a game in the middle of Iowa in a cornfield right by the site of the old Field of Dreams field is absolutely awesome. There's a cornfield, there's a corn maze, I think over the right field fence that's shaped like the MLB logo. Really awesome idea. I'm a huge fan of this. I think more creative ideas like this, I think moving forward for baseball would just be awesome.
Yeah, it's about 700 yards between this stadium, which is not MLB dimensions, to the one that is there. That will be contested. Just one game, though, between these two. I kind of wish they would have done like Red Sox and Yankees London series, a little home and home. X, your thoughts on Field of Dreams and specifically the jerseys?
Yeah, I think, swaggy and dripping may not be the words necessarily used for these jerseys, but I think that they do represent a pastime and a time when that movie was very, very fun to watch, and people that will recollect and remember that movie will enjoy these jerseys because they do a great job of representing that. For me, guys better bring out some cool cleats or something to add to these jerseys, because you see the New York one, it's pretty similar to the one you already have. So I got to see some extra sauce, some extra flair coming along with these jerseys. And I know those guys and the White Sox and the Yankees will bring a little something extra.
All right, Joon, quickly, we're talking drip. We have City Connect shirts for both the Cubs and the White Sox. I know we got to move on and talk actual baseball, but to whom do you give the nod for the City Connects this year? We saw the Cubs rocking these earlier in the series.
I had a rankings on ESPN.com of my favorite City Connect jerseys. The Chicago Cubs one was my number one. The Chicago White Sox one was my number one. I just love the entire pinstripe look, the black pinstripe pants. The Cubs one was last on my list because I thought it was the most boring of the entire group.
We still have, I think, the Dodgers to come this year. I like the White Sox ones because anytime you can get Tony La Russa wearing this, to me, it's a win. But again, Field of Dreams this week, Thursday night, White Sox and Yankees. And while we're talking the Yankees, let's take a look at the AL East standings. A couple intra-division series wrapping up today. 4 teams here have playoff hopes. Sorry to the O's. Just rough sledding against these 4
clubs.
Shout
out Cedric Mullins, though.
Yeah, we'll have a little Cedric Mullins later in the show, I believe. X, first, thoughts on who makes the playoffs out of the AL East?
Yeah, for me, you see all these teams rising to the occasion except for the Orioles, and the Red Sox are hitting a pretty tough slump right now. So I got the Rays number 1 coming out, and I think a wild card as well. The Yankees, I think they're coming on extremely strong. I think adding a Rizzo and adding a Joey Gallo to this lineup, that makes it more dynamic. You add more power, but at the same time, you add more patience, more on-base percentage, more offensive slugging. That's going to be huge for them, and we know they have the rotation and the bullpen. So I think the Yankees come up, but I have the what did I say?
Rays and Yankees, right?
Yes, the Rays at the top, and then the Yankees coming in for that wild card.
Well, that graphic we showed on screen, and perhaps this is the source of, maybe just being a half step behind, it was entering today's games, which Red Sox fans don't want to hear. They blew another lead. George Springer 3-run bomb, I think, was the difference there, Joon. Red Sox, man, they got off to a hot start, seemed to be punching above their weight class. They added Kyle Schwarber at the deadline, but that's kind of it. What is the feeling now in Boston and the level of confidence or lack thereof for this team as we get to the business end of the regular season?
Yeah, and there's potentially a setback with Schwarber coming back from rehab as well. Chris Sale is going to be returning this week into the rotation. And there is a lot of pressure on Chris Sale coming off of Tommy John to perform. The Red Sox are almost a victim of their low expectations coming into the year and then completely exceeding them because Red Sox fans, I think, coming into this year were okay accepting a team that was maybe on the wild card border. And then when this team came out and got off to an incredible start, sitting in first place for most of the season so far, those expectations rose, and when Chaim Bloom didn't do much at the deadline other than adding Chris Sale, or adding Kyle Schwarber, I think the fan base was disappointed because, Boston fans being Boston fans, especially over the course of the last decade, have definitely been spoiled, myself included. But, you take advantage of every single opportunity that you have to make the playoffs. And I think they're at a breaking point right now where, they lost a lot of games to the Rays recently. They obviously have lost a lot of games recently to the Toronto Blue Jays as well. They're at kind of a make or break point, I think, in terms of determining whether or not this team is legit. The offense has been struggling. The rotation has been struggling. Everyone across the lineup has just kind of gotten into a little bit of a funk the last couple of weeks. And we're at a point where the Red Sox have to basically hit the wall, and we're going to figure out who this Red Sox team actually is. Is this the team that has exceeded expectations before throughout the course of this entire season, or is this the team that everyone thought was going to be the team coming into the year based on the talent on this roster?
Yeah, and Chris Sale returning again, it's a great name. He hasn't pitched since August of 2019, so we really don't know what to expect with him coming back Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Chris Sale is, he had the worst season of his career the last time he pitched a full season, and expecting him to come back and be the best pitcher on this team, especially when you had a guy like Martin Perez, who was pretty good throughout the course of this year, now demoted from the rotation to the bullpen. There's a lot of pressure on Chris Sale to be the guy, to almost be the savior of this team, and that kind of pressure falls on Kyle Schwarber as well in terms of trying to rejuvenate the offensive spark that has been a constant presence for this Red Sox team over the course of the entire season. There's a lot of pressure on two guys, and it's almost unfair to expect those guys to carry this team to the playoffs, just given the injury situation, the fact that this team is just hitting a massive funk right now.
As we mentioned off the top of the show, Xavier joining us here again. Welcome to BBTN Live, host of the Bigs podcast, former major leaguer, played in the KBO. X, as a former player and somebody who talks to a lot of current players on your podcast, how do you see the state of the game in terms of culture and player personality?
Yeah, it's not where it needs to be at the moment, but it's getting there. We're taking steps. We're showing a little bit more personality. We're able to kind of dive into guys' cultures and backgrounds and bring them to the table and highlight them a little bit more. And one way to do that is the Bigs podcast, bringing guys on and letting them talk their talk, let them be themselves. I think a lot of times we ask these guys to bring so much more emotion to the table, but at the same time, we have to celebrate it. And I think that's what we're starting to do now with this game. And we're starting to understand the younger generation is rising to the top. The cream are coming to the top, and now it's celebrated. Let's highlight these guys. Let's let them have a voice in this game and let them be themselves. That's when you start to see these guys have fun. You start to see more personalities show up. And then you start to have more people attracted to the game, having more favorites. You see the younger generation getting a little more attracted and watching the games when they can have a favorite that shows that personality and shows you a little insight of what they're like on and off the field.
Yeah, I'm curious, just from the interviews that you've done so far on the podcast, has there been a guy who's surprised you in terms of his personality? What has been like your favorite thing that you've learned about a player, or the most surprising thing you've learned about a player throughout the course of doing the podcast so far this year?
Yeah, I think for me, it comes down to everybody had something different. And one of them that sticks out to me is a Brett Phillips, a guy that, walked off in Game 4 last year of the World Series for the Tampa Bay Rays. Obviously not a guy that plays every single day, but broke down the opportunity of what it was like to have a moment like that and walk off a game in the World Series, something that we all practice in the backyard when we're, 5 to 15 years old, maybe playing wiffle ball, whatever it may be with our boys and our friends. And it's like that moment came to fruition. And to hear him talk about that was so special for me, because we think about so much of using this game and having it be the game that we played when we were young kids. And I think that's got to be what we bring it back to. I think that's what we're talking about when the personality and emotion shown, the fist pumps, the bat flipping. That was us when we were young kids. So when these kids today are seeing that, they understand, oh, this game is fun. I love this game. Guys are smiling. Guys are having a good time. So listening to Brett Phillips talk about that, listening to Tim Anderson talk about just being himself and not caring if he does a bat flip and who he's showing up necessarily. And I think those things, and then hearing Albert Pujols talk about Mike Trout and the way he plays the game. So there's an appreciation for the way that the young stars are playing the game today now, and I think that's really showing in our generation coming up.
Xavier Scruggs, again, the host of the Bigs podcast. Appreciate the insight there. We are here now on BBTN Live, and coming up after us, well, the friendly confines weren't terribly friendly to Craig Kimbrell in his first appearance in a White Sox jersey. Pitched each of the first 2 games of this series. Series finale coming up, White Sox and Cubs on ABC and the ESPN app next.
Tatis Jr., who does it again.
Dodgers rolling tonight.
That's a rock-solid play.
That is blasted.
We got a star on our hands.
You love to see it.
Time for You Love to See It, and a man who's just over to my right, so close yet so far, Joe Joya, here for some of the best videos we have this week. Joe, what is good this week? What do you got for us?
We got some good stuff from this week, guys. But Xavier, I just wanted to throw out a little disclaimer before we get going. Whenever I'm on the show, I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't know what I'm going to do. We bring the electricity. It's about to get lit. Are you ready?
Let's get it.
Let's go. Leading off, we're heading out to Angels, A's, and Jose Iglesias. Here we go. They say chicks dig the long ball. Well, us dudes, we dig defense. Chill. What a play. Xavier, what do you think, my man?
Hey, this play right here is disgusting. That's a no-look flip. He doesn't even look at the second baseman, and it's right to his chest. That's what you're talking about when these guys are making nasty plays, showing off the leather. I love it.
Iglesias came through the Red Sox system, so I used to watch him at Fenway Park all the time, take fielding practice. And before the game, like one of the fun things to do at the ballpark is to watch batting practice and see how far guys can hit the balls. Jose Iglesias is one of the only players I've ever watched who makes fielding practice as entertaining as batting practice because of how flashy he is and what he does with the glove. It's just an absolute joy to watch. So if you ever have an opportunity to go to a game early and watch Jose Iglesias take fielding practice, it's a beauty.
Yeah, this wasn't an altogether inconsequential portion of the game. I mean, if memory serves, the Angels were down 3 runs in the 7th inning. This could have gotten really ugly really quick. So high risk, high reward, Jose. You made it on BBTN Live.
This next one, guys, I wish our guy Clinton Yates was here because I picked it out just for him. He is the president of base running Twitter. And check out Javy Baez on this.
Oh, no.
Tomas Nido with a tapper to first, and check out Javy Baez. Oh, no, you didn't! Xavier! What, is this an audition for The Matrix? What is going on right here?
This is absolutely ridiculous. This is why they call him El Mago, the magician. He knows how to contort his body. He knows how to make you miss the tag. He knows how to put down the tag with the best of them. So for me, this is just another example of why this kid is so athletic, so dynamic, and so fun to watch in our game, because you never know what this kid is going to do. Every day he's bringing something special, and the Mets are lucky. They got a guy in the middle of that infield that does something special every single night.
The Mets went 8 for 43 with runners in scoring position in that series, a whopping, 186 batting average. This was one of the ones. I mean, thank goodness for Javy Baez. That would have been worse.
I also just want to point out, that is a bad tag by the catcher. As a catcher, you're supposed to put the glove right in front of home plate, and you're not supposed to give him room to slide around.
Tell him, June.
But, I mean, Javy Baez is just an absolute musician sliding around there.
Also had a 5 strikeout game in that series as well, so it all kinds of evened out for us Mets fans, right?
Throw that in there, Phil. Go right ahead. But the Dodgers and the Astros faced off the past couple days. And first time in Dodger Stadium with fans since you guys know what. And Altuve says, you know what? Take your trash can jokes and put it on his tab.
Oh.
That's a lot of money right there. Take it.
Maybe if he knew what was coming, he would have kept it in play.
That's an expensive check swing right there. I mean, You're talking about some of these cameras that we have at the stadium. These things are so nice. But like you said, he said, you know what? If I keep getting booed, I got to hurt something on this field. It may not be a fan, but it might be a camera.
I would be terrified as like the camera guy to see a ball coming at my direction as you're like trying to like manage this extremely expensive piece of equipment.
So in Oakland, there was a blowout. And when blowouts happen, throw in the position players. It is pure content. And we had Brock Holt throwing heaters.
Gas.
Stoink.
Look at those mud chops on Brock Holt. Good God, he looks like a player from the 1910s.
Xavier,
What is
quick
it with
question.
today?
Oh.
These guys that just try to throw as slow as they can now. Is there some type of award that you get if you throw it the slowest for a strike? 30 miles an hour, that is, why would the guy even swing? I saw he swung at the next pitch, grounded it right back to Brock Holt. I almost rather strike out than try to swing at something 30 miles an hour and embarrass myself.
See, the reward for throwing the speed of a 9-year-old is you get on BBTN Live and we can sit here and celebrate you. Otherwise, why are we going to show you a blowout in Oakland? No reason.
On to the next one, guys. And I need a show of hands. Is anybody a cat guy over a dog guy?
I'm allergic to cats.
Okay, that answers that.
Dog guy.
Dog guy? Xavier, dog guy?
Cats creep me out.
I like that answer. Watch out for that cat! He's on the loose in Yankee Stadium. And this was about a 5-minute delay, and the execution of getting the cat off the field, probably one of the worst I've ever seen. Xavier, did you see this, and what did you think?
I saw this, and it was actually a night where the Yankees were not being offensive whatsoever, so this was the most entertaining thing that you saw
I
as a
agree.
Yankees fan
They
that
look-
night. I mean, where was the defense? Where's the defense? No athleticism from the grounds crew. You got to be better than that.
I think security is allergic to the cats like June. Maybe that's the explanation.
I also think it's hilarious that if you tackle like a dude who just runs on the field, like that's totally kosher, that's good. If you like try to manhandle a cat, that's like bad PR. That looks awful.
Not touching that.
Yeah, that's setting you up to fail, June. You're absolutely right.
Xavier, you and I have been friends, maybe, I guess, for like 10 minutes or so now, right? We're friends, but at this point, right?
Yeah, we're
And
boys.
we
We're
love
boys.
making new friends. But how about this one? Victor Robles with his boy, the praying mantis. How cool is this?
Oh, I would be absolutely frightened if somebody told me that thing was on the top of my hat. I just remember when like little flies would be on my hat and I would be trying to get them off. If that thing was on my hat, I'd be running off the field. I would be done. I'm pissed at my boy for not telling me that thing was on my dome.
My favorite, there was a strikeout there, and he goes to right field, one out, and then his buddy, one out. Keeping everybody in the loop. You never know.
I propose that we turn baseball into Fear Factor where we just throw bugs on everyone, like Jabba Chamberlain in Cleveland.
And I don't know if you guys
That's
saw
too
that.
many men on the field right there.
The mantis was going back and forth, almost just like, you want the smoke? You want the smoke? This is my new boy. Up next, we have the Rays security guard, and he is busting it. He got to be busting it to some woo baby. No,
Oh yeah, car wheel? Whoa!
Normally, you see this on teams that suck. The Rays are good, and they provide entertainment. You better be getting
you're
to
talking
the
about
ballpark in
somebody
Tampa
that's
this year, boys.
absolutely cutting. He's cutting a rug. I mean, this guy, and he's not stopping. Look at him saluting the crowd. He knows he did a great job. He's like, you guys got lucky with that one.
Huge Sunday energy. And Xavier, like I mentioned, you don't know what I'm going to do. You don't know what I'm going to show. We have a surprise for you, my friend. Roll the clip. This is a flashback if I ever seen one. 2016. The kid with his first dinger.
Swinging a drive.
Hey, that's the best feeling in the world right there. There's no doubt about that. When you get one like that and you piss off the pitcher like that, that's when you're feeling the best. Not to mention, Ichiro was on second base. So he rounds home. I come home. I dap up Ichiro. Barry
Coming up
Bonds
right
is my
here.
hitting coach. He gives me a hug. Don Mattingly, of course, one of the all-time greats. So just a surreal moment for me hitting that first home run in the big leagues with the Miami Marlins. It doesn't get any better than that, guys.
Where's that baseball?
That baseball is with my dad. I gave it to my dad. I said, hey, you know what? You deserve this one. All the taking me to the field, throwing batting practice, and getting hit right back at the screen. All those times that he took me to the cages, man, that's what he deserves.
X, if you can still pinch hit like that, I'd like to introduce you to Steve Cohen. I think I got a team for you. Maybe we'll put that retirement on hold for another year. Joe, thank you so much. You love to see it. X, we love seeing you go yard in Pittsburgh as well. But we do have some sad news from Major League Baseball from this past week. Richard, the Astros great from the late 70s, passed away. X, what are your memories of Richard and his legacy?
Yeah, definitely a somber thing to hear. Very sad. My parents were actually living in Houston during the time of, while he was one of the top pitchers in the league. I mean, you're talking about him pitching in a rotation with Nolan Ryan, Phil Niekro, just a 6'8", just an absolute beast of a man coming at you with the arsenal of all types of pitches and just that fastball that had so much heat. Someone that was dominant, but his career was actually cut a lot shorter than what it should have been. He could have been one of the most dominant pitchers in our game ever. So just sad to hear about what he had to go through, and he'll be remembered as one of those great guys of a team that was pretty special.
Yeah, and it's always a shame to see athletes who have their careers cut short due to health issues. And I wanted to take another moment to acknowledge Jerry Remy and Ray Fosse, two broadcasters for the Red Sox and the A's, who are taking a step back this season due to their respective battles with cancer. Both of them are legendary broadcasters in their markets. I grew up watching Jerry Remy. He's always just been such a delightful person to not only watch on television, but to talk to at the ballpark. And so, thoughts out to Jerry Remy's family and Ray Fosse's family as well.
The Richard, Remy, and Fosse families, thoughts all with us. J.R. Richard still holds the Major League record for most strikeouts in a debut with 15. Xavier, thank you so much for joining us. You can catch more of your work, certainly, on select MLB broadcasts here on ESPN and the Bigs podcast. But we do appreciate you adding to the repertoire this week and joining us here on BBTN Live. And thank you for watching BBTN Live as well. We got the crosstown rivals, White Sox and Cubs, coming up right now. First pitch, get over to ABC if you're not there already, or one tap, one app, the ESPN app. You can watch it there as well. He's Xavier Scruggs. He's Joon Lee. I'm Phil Murphy. Joe Joya's somewhere in the back. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll catch you next time.